Welcome to Simply Caroline, a podcast dedicated to women empowerment where we will discuss a bunch of different subjects such as life, parenting, love, business, money, relationships, healing, recovery, addiction, entrepreneurship, and so much more. A podcast I'll do my best to keep simple, fun, and relatable and bring you tools to help you better your life. So thank you for being here. And here's your host, myself, Caroline Blanchard. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us again this week. This week, I have two amazing guests that I absolutely love. A couple that is, really out there to talk about the magic within. And today we'll explore a little, who they are, what they do, because they are touching so many different subjects. We could talk for hours with them, but we're going to try to bring you the most of it in a short period of time. But it's really what I love about them is that they're really there to, empower people and better their lives. And for having had the pleasure to personally experience their therapy, it changed so much in my life. So as many of you know, I'm the queen of therapy. I did a lot of talk therapy and I tried a lot of different things. But when I did the NLP, so neuro-linguistic programming with them, it really changed something. And it was one session that lasted 3 or 4 hours. And since then, I really feel like something has changed within me. Like there's some wounds or traumas that I have really let go. And now I'm speaking with Alan every week. And every week not every week, but often I tell him like, I don't know what you did, but it feels amazing. So I want to introduce Cindy Preston and Alan Wade. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Thank
you for having us. It's such an honor.
Yes. Well, the honor is mine, really. Let's start by what I just mentioned here, NLP, because honestly, before, interviewing you in a previous venture, I had no idea what NLP was. I had heard the acronym. And, you get to an age sometimes that you stop asking what acronyms mean. You're just like, uh-huh. So talk to us a little bit about what NLP is exactly.
For me, NLP is actually one of the easiest descriptions I can give you is my kids have cars and they buy different kind of cars. I'm a mechanic and I can work on all sorts of cars, but I would tell them they would buy a car I had never seen or worked on, buy the manual for it, and I can fix anything in that car because I have the manual. NLP to us, to me specifically, is the manual to speak to the unconscious mind where everything is stored, where everything is experienced. And if you want to change something, get right down to the root cause of it and change it right there.
Yes, and I love one thing that you said before, and I think that that's why I had decided to, contact you and actually experience it for myself. You said, a trauma or a wound usually takes minutes to create. Yep. So why should it take years to get over it?
Yep.
And when you said that, it was like a bomb fell on my desk. I was like, oh my God, it's so true. So talk a bit to that.
You want to take that one?
Yeah. So we use a technique called mental emotional release, or MER, to do the releasing of past trauma, past limiting beliefs, or emotions that are trapped in the body. And we use the MER to do that. So it's part of the NLP training that we took. And it basically is kind of like a timeline. And actually, the original person who created timeline therapy was Tad James, and his son, Matt James, was our trainer. And he kind of revised it and turned it into a mental emotional release. So it's basically a procedure where we use your unconscious mind to go into your past and take you to that event, and we remove the feelings associated with it that are causing you problems, but you still have the memory of it. So it completely gives you a different view of it. It's almost like it's like watching a movie now and you're not associated with it. It's kind of like something you see, but it doesn't affect you personally and cause chaos in your life. So we literally remove those feelings that are trapped in your unconscious mind that are associated to that event.
Yes, and how would someone know that, NLP would be beneficial for them? Because I know that you don't need to have had like big traumas. People like can have trauma that they can really identify, but sometimes it can just be like something you heard when you were younger or even older that really stuck to you, hurt you, and you don't even understand why, but it creates limiting beliefs. So when does someone know, it's time to contact Cindy and Alan?
Well, that is an amazing question, because a lot of times we don't know what's actually stopping us from achieving something. If you've ever tried to do something and you've never succeeded, or you're not as successful as you want to be, is there something that's in there? It's kind of like you said, limiting beliefs, trauma. You can be traumatized in a second, so why not be untraumatized in a session? Limiting beliefs are just as quick and just as fast. You can hear somebody say something to you that I was told many times when I was a kid. I was a loser. I would never succeed. I would end up in jail. I heard all of these things. That becomes your identity. You're a loser. I'm a loser. I'm going to end up in jail. I'm never going to succeed at anything. That minute statement, that 20-word statement, or how many ever words, is embedded right into the unconscious mind. So when you're trying to achieve something and you say, I want to do this, and then part of you doesn't do what it has to do to get there, that is a limiting belief holding you back. And a lot of times what we do to help people is we get them to explore what's going on, and when they explore what's going on, they'll come up to us, because we gave homework to people. What's your thought pattern on a specific subject, and be thorough. And one of the secrets we tell people is, whatever you write down is the right answer. Don't think about it, just write. That's the answer you need. And a lot of times they'll look up and say, Al, I don't believe I deserve money. I don't believe I deserve happiness. I don't deserve love. And then we can release that limiting beliefs in 10-minute session, 15-minute session. Install a new belief, the one that they want. I deserve love. I deserve abundance. And that's just as how fast it can be. NLP is amazing.
It is amazing. I'm thinking, I remember when I did my session with you guys and you said to do this homework. I procrastinated until the last minute, of course, to do that homework, because that's me. But it's also like I could feel, oh, this is going to move something not fun, and when it's not fun, you don't want to go to it. So you wait last minute. But what you were just saying is that I ended up saying stuff that I was just like, after hearing myself saying it, I was just like, did I just say this? Like that's such a talking like a victim. But in that safe environment that you create, it's not being a victim. It's just really recognizing what you're actually feeling. Because one of the first way to fix something is to recognize that there's something. And honestly, there's questions you asked me that I didn't know that was the answer I would give. And it was really interesting because when we did the timeline, I remember hearing myself. You asked me, so where are you now? When was that moment? And I went back to not even being born. And when I said that, I was just like, what? That's impossible that I just said that. Because it's like you're in between two states. So I knew what I was saying, but I didn't know what I was saying. And the answers were coming. And you're even like, what month is it? And I said, January. And I was just like, what? That's so crazy. And you know what? January is the month that I was conceived. How crazy is that? So that I found out after. But my point to this is that it's coming to get something else in you. And no matter how much you have things together or not, yes, sometimes you hit a wall, and always the same wall or always the same ceiling, whether it be in relationships, business, or whatever. You're always like, when I get there, it doesn't work anymore. When I get there, it doesn't work anymore. That's when I would call Cindy and Alan. And honestly, like, it's godsend. And then after, we went to another part of the treatment, which is Cindy's beautiful voice, and I'll let her explain what she does. But I have to tell you guys, I fall asleep every night with Cindy since. So Cindy, what is it that you did in that amazing recording?
Well, what we do with the MER and the limiting beliefs is we, as you know, we release the limiting beliefs that are not serving you. We put in the new beliefs that are going to serve you, that are from you, right? And then, so we do that process, but then what we do after, at the very end of the session, is a hypnosis session, which we do with you, and we put in the suggestions that you chose during your MER session to reinforce those into your unconscious mind. So when you do that, then we record it on your phone, so you can listen to it over and over as many times as you want, reinforcing those new positive beliefs, and so that you can really create the amazing dream life you deserve. So that's basically what I do. That's kind of part of the session. And so it's a really beautiful way to end off the session, and it's a nice gift for you to that keeps on giving.
Yes, and I agree with that, because there's a lot of things we do, when we're coached or when we're trained or webinars, or call it how you want. You feel so powerful while you're in it, and you feel good while you're in it, but then it goes away. And then you end up on your own trying to implement everything that was, thought or learned or whatever. And so for me, having this recording is like my security blanket sometimes. I was just telling Cindy in pre-interview, I got a bad news, and my first reflex was to go listen to her. No pressure, Cindy. But it's always the same thing. But as she says, it's really the words that I wanted in there. And I'm saying this, but it's really, I told her what I wanted, and she phrased it beautifully. So for me to really integrate it. And when we talk about dream life here, I don't want you guys to start thinking, oh, again, one of those things that you will live your dream life. For me, a dream life is just being peaceful and happy and not having this black hole. So a dream life is not always, when we say that, we associate it to, oh, driving a Ferrari and having my big mansion. We're not talking about this. This is material. We're talking about really like your feelings, because I do believe that when your feelings are at the right place and you feel great, then the rest is, achieving goals. But this is a great goal that we've heard so many things since we're little. And some of us have really, like Alan said, embedded a lot of it. And what I love about Cindy and Alan is that it's just not NLP that they learn. They have like a profound history. Both of them have their own story. I'll start with Cindy. Cindy, talk to us a little bit about what brought you to all of this.
Well, when I was younger, I'd say actually I had my second child. I developed postpartum depression, and it really played havoc in my life, to the point where my partner and I separated. I became suicidal. I felt suicidal most of the time. I didn't want to get up in the mornings. I really felt kind of like I was gypped with that time with my children when they were young, because I just didn't have the energy or the emotional ability to be a good mom during that time. So it was very, very difficult for me. And I went to a therapist because I thought something's wrong with me. I don't know what it is, but I need help. So I went to a therapist, and he helped me a lot. And I realized, there's so many people in the world who are struggling with this depression, anxiety, mental health issues, and I want to help them. I realized how much pain and how much suffering I went through it, and I wanted to help others. So I decided to go to school so I could become a therapist and help people who were suffering. That was my how I actually got started years ago. That was in 1996 when I graduated. I feel like a long time ago. And so that was the reason why I started, was I wanted to help others who suffered like I did, so that they could create better lives. And I did that for quite a long time. And then when I met Al, I had met a woman in Costa Rica actually who had taken NLP training, and she went on and on about it. And I just kind of went, yeah, whatever. And she gave me all these CDs of her training, and I just took them home, threw them in the closet. And then I don't know why, but I kept hearing about NLP here and there. And I got them out and I started listening to them. I said, Al, we got to take this. This is fascinating, amazing stuff. So we took the training. So that's kind of how I got started in what I did. I also had a very traumatic experience with the death of my father. He was in a police shootout in 2010. And he died, and one of the police officers died, and it was so traumatic for me. It just caught me off guard. He was one of the most beautiful, loving people in the world, and he was going through a rough time, and he just literally had, I feel like, a psychotic break, and he got in a police shootout. It was terrible. Completely devastated my whole family. I was devastated for at least a year following that, and the trauma I went through during that time. What I did was, when we wrote the Magic Within book, I shared how I got through that time in my recovering from that trauma, and how I dealt with it. And I wanted to share it with the world because I wanted other people who have had something devastating happen to them, give them some little tools and things that help me to help people get through those really difficult times. So that was kind of where the book came from.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for your loss. And thank you for sharing, because I know that even if the years pass, it never, it gets easier in the way that we can not start bursting in tears, but I'm sure that the emotion is still as much there. So thank you for sharing. And excuse me. So yes, the book, The Magic Within, you talk about that. And one of the things that I really, admire with you, and why I think that you helping people work, is because you really come from a place of experience, not just schooling. And I'm not saying anything against, people that only go through schooling, but you actually have the compassion and the empathy that goes with it because you actually lived it. And for me, that's mostly the people that I associate with. It's like, oh, you went through this, so now you understand how I feel, so you can help me. And everyone is different, but that's what I really, really like about you both, actually, because Alan, you have quite the story as well.
Yeah, I do. For me, my story was kept secret till I was 50 years old, and then I'll tell you after how it came out. But when I was 10, I went into a church where I lived, and somebody grabbed me from behind and dragged me off to a room, slapped me in the head, and he raped me in that church. And when he was finished, he basically threw me off the stairs and told me, and this is part of what you have certain memories that stick, was I was bad, I deserved to be punished, and if I told anyone, I'd be punished again. And you remember when I said, when things are told to kids, it gets embedded in their mindset. So I went for years thinking I was bad, I deserved to be punished, and um, I never told anyone about it. By 16, I was just in such a dark place of, people ask me, what do I know about depression? Because I run around all the time happy and helpful to people. And I tell them, well, at 16, I put a gun in my mouth and I pulled the trigger because I couldn't see having a normal life. And when it didn't work the first time, I tried it again. And then I was just overtaken by anger. The fear and the sadness left, and the anger took over. And yeah, I justified everything I did. I hurt all sorts of people. I did whatever I wanted to without any remorse. And I justified the fact that, well, then people shouldn't have, I was hurt, so I hurt everything. I did mean and terrible things until I was 27, and my anger came to, and this is a story I haven't shared very often. My anger came to a head, and I went back to that church, and I remember standing at the doors feeling like that 10-year-old boy, but I was so mad, I just pushed the doors open, went in, and when these two people came towards me, one was a lady and one was a man, and all I could tell you was I could feel my heart pumping blood, and I could feel the anger in my hands. And when that man approached me, I realized that I never saw him. I never had a face. I never saw anything of him. When he threw me off the stairs and my feet hit the ground, I ran home. And when I got home, my mom asked me, "Why are you in tears?" And I just said, "You know what? I fell down. I just hurt myself and just went to my room. Never told anyone." And that day in the church, it was like the bubble or the balloon had bursted, and for the first time ever, I was like deflated with no real feelings anymore. And I realized right there and then I needed to do something different, or I was going to end up in jail, or I was going to kill somebody. Or so I started down a path of change, and I kept that secret till I was 49 years old, I believe it was, and I was lecturing at the addictions program I was working at, and I was lecturing on abuse. And I remember saying I knew what it was like to be emotionally, physically, mentally, and sexually abused. And I remember the how you, when you embarrass yourself or something, I started getting flush. I could feel myself turning red. I actually had to turn towards the blackboard. There was still blackboards in those days.
Wow.
And I had to compose myself, and I said, "No, you're okay." And I just turned around and kept going, and that's how it came out. And for me, it's when I wrote it in The Magic Within, it was something, I wasn't attached to anymore, and I just said, this happened. And then suddenly people started calling us and wanted to hear more about it and more about what we did. And so we wrote Awakening Out of the Darkness into the Light, where I actually tell people about the terror and the night sweats and living in fear of your friends finding out, or your parents finding out that you lied. My parents died years ago, and they never knew what happened to me.
Wow. My heart breaks hearing this story because of so many reasons, but also like never having seen the person. So it's a big part was probably also, you fighting against an image in your head that you didn't really have, but you wanted and you didn't want it. So anyway, without getting into that, it's like, I'm sorry you went through that. But on the other end, it gives so much hope. Like, because as you were talking, my heart was breaking, and I'm like, oh my goodness, how can you get out of this? Even though I know now that you're in a loving, committed relationship and you have a beautiful life, and you still go through that of like, oh my goodness, because we're really also, I find, so conditioned that when horrible stuff will happen to you, or you suffer horrible losses like Cindy, you're done. Like, you're going to be screwed up after. You're going to be like, oh my goodness, you're going to have a hard time. And you guys have both proven like such the opposite. So, and yes, Alan, I met you last year, and I would have never thought that you could have, if you said depression, I would have probably say like, well, you don't know what you're talking about because you're always so happy. And Cindy too, she's always so positive. But I think that you guys are acing that really because you've learned it profoundly and you know how to teach it. And you also decided and chose that this is your life. Because I'm sure there's moments that, you're not like high-fiving yourself and You know, I'm sure there's still moments that are difficult, but the difference is that now you have tools and you have experience and you have each other. And that too, for me, that's pure hope because you know, I know that you're not high school sweethearts because when I see couples together and I'm like, of course, they're high school sweethearts. That doesn't exist at our age anymore. But you guys met later in life. And even after those traumatic things, you still met and you found the strength to trust each other and fall in love with each other. And it seems to be such a strong and powerful relationship. Cindy, why don't you talk to us to tell us a little bit? How did you guys meet?
Well, Alan and I actually met on online dating, which is bizarre because I know a lot of people have had, you know, a lot of negative experiences. The funny thing is my daughter met her husband on Plenty of Fish, and she encouraged me to do it. And I said, no, I've been there, done that. It was a terrible experience. And she said, well, you know, Mom, try to do some. It's funny how our children teach us. Eh? She's like, Mom, I think you need to pay attention to who you're talking to and what you're talking about, and make it very, you know, straight right from the beginning who you are and what you're about and what you don't want. So I did that, and it really helped. And as Alan didn't send a picture with his when he first sent me a message, and usually I wouldn't respond to those, but because I was worried about them being married or hiding something, right? But for some reason, something told me to click on that message. I don't know what. And then he had pictures attached, and it was weird because we started talking and we just instantly had a connection. And that was probably because we had the mutual history of both being, you know, working as counselors in the field in addictions, ironically. And so we just kind of hit it off right away. And I think the most beautiful thing that I found was neat was after my dad died, I was very aware of signs from him. I'm very open to spiritually, and I was always open to different messages from him. And because he carved bears and stuff, he would always use marbles for their eyes. And after he died, marbles would show up in really weird places. And to me, it was a message from him saying, you know, you're on the right track, or I'm here, or whatever. And the very first day I met Al, he walked up to me with this really interesting necklace on, and it had something weird, and it looked like a crystal. And I said, what is that? That's very interesting. And he said, oh, that's a marble. And I instantly knew he was from, yeah, my dad was saying he's your guy. And we've been together ever since.
How long has it been?
It was 9 years in October.
Yeah.
Wow, congratulations. Congratulations. Al, do you want to give your version of that story, or is it the same?
You know what? The story is basically the same. Sometimes we have a little different perspectives on stories, but she's right. I did send a message to her because there was something that resonated with her, and I had to keep picture out because it caused a little bit of problems being an addictions counselor with some of my clients' exes. So that's how come I didn't have a picture. But the funny thing about the marble is when I was going to school with to be a social worker, and I started at 47 years old, I remember a lot of people, they remembered the Alan of when he was in his 20s. And my brothers, they would joke that when I told people I was going to be a counselor, they said, you can't pick people up by their neck and tell them to get better, because, you know, they had seen that stuff years ago and they were still living in the past. And people told me I had lost my marbles all the time for quitting a secure job of 26 years and starting something different. And one day I was in the school, I seen somebody with a table with marbles. He had a marble like this. And I thought to myself, you know what, next time somebody says I've lost my marbles, I can always say, hey, I got one here. And I've had one marble on for, I believe now it's 12 years. And I have lost the marble a few times, but it's always come back.
Doesn't want to leave you.
Well, you know what? I lost it once crawling under my son's car for 2 months. I kept the necklace on, and I think I was moving, and I moved the box, and there it was. And so I picked it up and I put it back in, and yeah, the marble's been with me. Lost in the field, lost in the driveway, and find it a couple days later. So yeah, marble wants to stay with me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And again, you guys are giving us hope. So the hope that online dating can work, and the hope that when they don't put their picture, it doesn't mean they're a freak.
Right.
So there's hope all around in this discussion. So talk a little bit. I know that you guys like published multiple books on your own and together, but today we're going to talk a bit about the magic within. Where can people find this book, and what is this book about? We talked about it a bit, but just like focusing on the book, like what is it going to bring people to actually read that book?
You know what? You can find that book on Amazon.com or Amazon.ca. And I'll let Cindy talk about that book, because we wrote that book to help people. It's called The Magic Within: How to Transform Your Life. But it ended up transforming our life as well. It's kind of done both for everyone. But go ahead, tell them why we wrote a book.
Yeah. And you can also get it on our website, which is tmw.coach as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Good save.
Yeah. So, we wrote the book basically because we've both, as you know, worked in addiction and mental health for years. And I wanted to reach more people. You know, in my practice at work, I could only see maximum 6 people a day within my 8 hours. And I said to Al, I want to reach multiple people, and I want to be able to give them hope. It was all about giving hope and helping people who were suffering. That was our 2 kind of main things. So when we wrote The Magic Within, it was all about sharing hope with the world that, you know, we had our own experiences we've gotten through, and we wanted everyone to know that, you know, you can get through it. You're not alone. There is hope. So that was our main message that we wanted to give everybody. And it just ended up, ironically, the guy who published it told us, when you write a book, things are going to happen to you. And we kind of went, yeah, whatever. We didn't believe him.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
We didn't believe him. And then all of a sudden, people out of nowhere started messaging us saying, can you please help my family member, because we hear you know, this is what you do. So they landed in our laps, and then we created our coaching company from that. So it literally happened to us, kind of. We had no intention of doing that when we wrote the book. We just wanted to share it with as many people as we could. And we got the name The Magic Within because we both believe that all of our answers, all of that magic is actually within us. We've been conditioned to look outside for it. So we want to teach people, no, those answers are within. Sometimes you might need someone to just help you find those answers, but they are there. And like, as you've witnessed yourself with the NLP and the MER, you did it all yourself. We just guided you there. You found it all. And so we want people to be empowered by knowing these answers are already there. It's learning to tap into them.
Wow, yes. And thank you for going into coaching. I've benefited from it. So, in closing, what would your message be to someone today who, you know, is not 100% happy? So basically, what would be your message to everyone?
For me, my thing is never ever give up. Like, never ever give up. I stood right there at that point in time, and you know what? It's because of fate or the universe or some reason it didn't work, and I'm still here. But if I would have succeeded, I wouldn't have had kids. I wouldn't have had Cindy. I wouldn't have helped all of these hundreds of people that we've helped. And never ever give up. And you know what? There's something that I seen the other day, and somebody was saying, if something doesn't work, just try something again. And if that doesn't work, just try something again. And for us, if you've tried everything you can think of and you're still not where you want to be, come and see us. We can help you
Yes.
to take the next step to empower your life, to have the life that you deserve and want, and never ever give up on yourself.
Awesome. Cindy?
Um, that's one of the things I usually
I
say to
stole
people.
it from
He
her.
stole it from me. I'm like,
Oh, jeez.
but that's okay. It we want people to know that your past does not equal your future.
Hmm.
That your past does not define you. Whoever, you things you've done in your past or things that have been done to you basically does not define who you are. Those are just experiences, and that you can change your future. You can work by being here today and choosing is the biggest word, choosing that you want more and that you believe in yourself and that you can create a beautiful life for yourself and believing in yourself. And that's what our whole thing is. The magic within is believing in you. How amazing. People don't realize how powerful they really are. And that's our whole goal, is to teach you. You are the most beautiful, magnificent, powerful being. It's just finding that part of you and tapping in.
Yes, I agree, and it's beautiful. And what I want to add to that is that, I used to be in the seats of the ones who would hear that, and I would feel inspired, and I would feel like, oh my goodness. And then when someone would say that, I would say, yeah, but it's not for me. But yes, it is for everyone. And, we all deserve to be happy and to be peaceful and to be abundant. And I'm not just talking about money here, abundant into all of the beauties of life. Cindy and Alan, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys so much, and I love you both. So if people want to reach you, it's tmw.coach.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yes, so tmw.coach. If you want to get yourself their book, go on Amazon, and you can also, just write to them via the website. Thank you so much. And to everyone listening, thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.